Call to order this workshop. The date is May 30th, 2024. I'm missing one council member. Anybody heard from Fred?
He's en route.
Mhm.
He's en route.
He's en route. Okay. So we're good to start. I guess we'll call to order public comment pertaining to agenda items only. None? Okay, we'll start with the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce Annual DMO presentation. This is Ariana.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone is doing well. My name is Ariana Pernice, and I'm with the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. And I'm going to present the proposed marketing plan and budget for the fiscal year 25. Okay.
For me.
The opportunity to be the DMO for the town of Bluffton is a great privilege, and we take that very seriously. We work very closely with the town staff, the town council, and the community to ensure that we are hitting the mark when it comes to appropriately promoting the destination in terms of what we feel are the opportunities to promote for others to visit and enjoy the same amenities and wonderful lifestyle that we do every single day. Our organizational governance, for those that are new to our presentations and how our organization works, it really is in lockstep with the town, the community, and the council. I actually can't see that far either, so I apologize for looking down, but we are governed by several different aspects, one being our DMO contract with the town as the DMO. We do an annual independent audit. We have government review. That's our opportunity to speak with you and receive that feedback. We are actually accredited by Destinations International. We are under 200 organizations as DMOs that have that accreditation, and we go through a pretty rigorous checkbox of things that make us eligible for that accreditation process. And then we also have our board of directors. On a daily basis, our vision is to ensure we're a welcoming, world-class community, embracing nature, culture, and economic vibrancy for residents and visitors, with a mission to stimulate the regional economy while enhancing the quality of life for all. So before we look forward, we'll look back. So 2023, year in review, and we do that from a calendar standpoint because as we run on a fiscal year alongside with your efforts July through June, we take the last full 12 months that we can, and that's the best thing to do is look at 2023. So we're in process currently of fiscal year 24. So we'll look back at 2023 year in review. So when you're looking at this, think about 12 months, January through December 2023. This is a quick snapshot of how we did health-wise from a tourism perspective. So at the end of the day, our out marketing efforts are really to garner eyeballs to our virtual front door, which is the website. But ultimately, we want to turn those eyeballs that are looking and seeking travel to the town of Bluffton to put a head in a bed. There are 4 hotels within the town of Bluffton that collect an accommodation tax. So we have Old Town Bluffton Inn, Montage, Comfort Suites, and Extended Stay. Those are the 4 that collect the accommodation tax that contribute to your ATAX collections here at the town of Bluffton. So with that, if you look at 12 months of 2023, it was 69% occupancy as a whole. The average daily rate, if you take all the hotel rooms available, and put them together in terms of what those were offered at during the 2023 calendar year, they averaged a $264.95 rate. And then the revenue per available room was $183.63. Our accommodation and hospitality tax collections over the last 5 years is up 103%. So I think we're doing pretty good. But the way you can look at this bar graph, from left to right, we use fiscal year 18 as the benchmark and come up to 2023, fiscal year 2023 in this particular instance. And you can see by the shades of the bars that it's the visual for hospitality, local accommodation, and state accommodation collections. If you look at who is visiting and what they're doing and their impact in visiting our destination, there was over 208 million in terms of the total economic impact. And so when you look at that and you have 208 million in economic impact, so every time we put $1 out into the market, we received $26.25 return on our investment. So when you look at the 208 million, really look at that as an opportunity to say total impact. So that's them staying, eating, buying gas, have a rental company has to come and clean house. It's total economic impact, direct and indirect when it's talking about total collections. So that quick snapshot brings us to what I had mentioned previously, which was our virtual front door. Years ago, you would see a more traditional brick and mortar as being your only time or only opportunity really to engage with a destination. And today we do still have our brick and mortar at the four-way stop, but we also have our virtual front door, and it really does work as another, I would say, person on our team. Really, it's the one welcoming everybody virtually and echoes and really the opportunity of what we're trying to bring forward to all visitors that are interested in visiting the town of Bluffton. So when you look at who is visiting, we had over 254,000 people visit in 2023, and they shook the hands or had a referral to a business within the town of Bluffton, and that was at 56,000 of those. But we all know that we can't just have the website alone and hope people find it. We have a concerted effort in place with being on many different channels or platforms to ensure people are finding their way back to the website. But one way that is working really hard for us is our social media. And believe it or not, social media for us in the town of Bluffton and promotion for tourism has been something that we've grown over the past few years together. We've always had a bit of a Facebook presence. We've had Instagram, but those have grown for us over the last couple of years. And we've also introduced TikTok. I don't know if we're all familiar with TikTok, but it's the place to be. People are making decisions off TikTok, which is interesting to me. I believe I've aged myself, and I'm putting myself in a different group of people who probably use social media as a opportunity to understand new opportunities or trends that are happening. But I'm still going into maybe a website or picking up a printed piece to make that final decision, where the younger generations are actually making decisions on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and they're taking itineraries, suggestions, they're booking actually through TikTok. So it's a really big platform for the younger generations. And as we grow the destination and the awareness of the destination, it's one that we will continue to use and build as we move forward. So our total followers across all of our organic channels are 48,000. But the eyeballs that had exposure to that opportunity across that was over 10 million. And I just wanted to play things that are interesting to our followers. But if you wait for it, apologies that there's not sound to it, but they love nature. They love the May River, and they love to see the dolphins come up. So this is one of our top performing posts that we had this past 2023 year. We also complement our website and our social efforts with a rich and consistent outreach effort through public relations. Charlie Clark on our team works very closely with editors, as well as utilizing the power of Weber Shandwick, who is our agency of record. Charlie and her team work daily to foster relationships. These are things that you cannot pay for. These are things that are earned, different than what you would call paid media. Like, we've invested in this article that's going to show up in Garden & Gun. Charlie and her team do look to pick out particular publications, whether those be online or print. But she works very hard to build those relationships and tell the story of Bluffton, in which she was able to garner in 2023 with her team 108 stories and mentions. That's over 1 billion in impressions. Again, eyeballs that had the opportunity to see these pieces that were out in these publications. And again, these are just a snapshot of the really high-end pieces that are being placed across different channels. And that would have been over 421,000 if we were to go out and pay for that, which we wouldn't want to do, because we have other assets that we want to make sure are on all the time, and that money is used to do those things. So kudos to Charlie and her team as they continue to work those opportunities and show great results. The fulfillment piece, and my phone, is one that I'm very proud of, and I know the town is very proud of. We worked very hard a couple of years back to ensure that the town of Bluffton had their own piece, this coffee table book that sits very proudly on my coffee table and many others across the country and the world. 30,000 units of these are produced annually, and we are well on our way to fulfilling those this year. And for the year of 2023, of the 30,000 we ordered, we fulfilled 29,000 of those. So this is one of our top requested pieces when you're talking about travel. How can I plan my trip? What can I do when I come to Bluffton? And this is a comprehensive book that tells that deeper story, provides itineraries, and gives insight to what they might be experienced when they're here in person. How is that fulfilled, or where is it distributed? Good evening. How are you?
Welcome.
It is at both of our offices, both in Bluffton and on Hilton Head. It is at all state welcome centers, official welcome centers. There are 9 of those across the state of South Carolina. AAA offices. We also take email and phone requests, and we fulfill those. We take them to all trade shows and events, and then they're also at every media and public relation initiative that we have. Any questions on what we've done?
Can you do it all over again?
Yes, sir. I sure can.
No, you
I feel
don't
like
have
I'm
to.
just warming up. I'm really proud of what we've done together in 2023. I think there's a lot of opportunity as we've gone through a great half of the fiscal year looking forward. There's great things ahead. We've really grown this brand and brand awareness, and I'm excited to share with you kind of how we'll take that same approach, learning from what we've done in 23 in this first half of this fiscal year, and apply it to our strategy going forward.
Question?
Yes, sir.
As you were talking, about TikTok and all, and where
Yes.
you're reaching more young people.
Mm-hmm.
You're on there too, so you're young.
Okay.
Do you see any difference in the age of people that are sleeping in the beds? If I could say it like that.
Yes.
Our average person or age group, is it more families, or is it more, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Are you seeing anything different?
We are seeing a slight difference. So Montage being the opportunity where there is the most beds or accommodations that are offered, that skews a bit higher end, and it skews more towards families, extended family trips, the generational concept. And we're getting a lot of people, this doesn't answer the age question, but I'll get there. That brand is so recognized kind of on the West Coast and further. One of our top contributors to our visitor profile study that we do for the town of Bluffton, we're getting a lot of responses from California and the West Coast. I say that because, yes, we do see a lot of families coming who are bringing their younger kids to do the experiences. In addition to, we tend to skew younger anyhow in terms of our visitorship. And when I say younger, I'm thinking that 35 to 45, age range, and it goes up and down from there. But we have that sweet spot of 35 to 45. I could even go to 50. But it really is an opportunity for us. Now, people who are engaging on TikTok might not be the main decision maker in where they travel, but they are helping to make a decision, especially if it's a family trip. Hey, I've seen this mom and dad or family member who's making the decision. Have we considered this? And I think those are some really great things that are happening within travel, that there's more than one decision maker, that there might be one person who's actually clicking the button, but they're taking a collective, ask of what's happening and what people are doing. And as we see on our social media, there's a lot of people who are very hands-on when they're traveling. So whether they're enjoying a farmer's market, whether they're out on the May River, they're experiencing some kind of historical opportunity, eating our local, cuisine, these are things that they're experiencing because they're seeing it on one of the social channels or reading about it in one of the articles. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of engage them with different content and see what picks up and what doesn't. As we move forward, our overarching goal has not changed. It will always be to build a marketing plan that drives qualified visitation to the destination. So at the end of the day, all of our out marketing efforts and the things that we do to put the brand in the out markets 50 miles or further is to really put them in this qualifying funnel. And you can tell that I'm in marketing because I'm using my hands, but essentially think of it as a funnel. And if you start taking people in at the top of a funnel, and you start telling them all about Bluffton and all the things that they can do, you're starting to qualify them, right? Is this of interest, do you think? And we can get a little smarter on how we're marketing to them as they work themselves further down the funnel. Hopefully at the end, when they're qualified, they're clicking out and making that decision to take their trip to the town of Bluffton. Now, we aren't a point of sale on our website, but that handshake out to the accommodations or to the culinary location, to the historical destination that they want to visit, that's happening because they're coming through this funnel. We've qualified them. And that is why in marketing, it isn't just a one-stop shop. We have to continue to serve them the message of Bluffton. And if, as we qualify them and they say to themselves, oh, I really am interested in history, or I'm really interested in culinary, Bluffton seems to have those things and they're offering it. Can I get a little bit more info? And they start to click and be fed that information on social, on the website, on the ads that they're getting. So it really does help bring them through the funnel and then ultimately make a handshake out to a partner. Now, I said there wasn't a single decision maker, but there is one person who skews to be the one that pushes the purchase button. In our recent visitor profile study, it shows that the female is skewing as that decision maker at 52%. Last year, we saw that a little different. The male is actually making the decision, which was, from our standpoint, a bit of an anomaly. We hadn't seen that, at least in my tenure. But female at 52% for this past effort. And so she's the one pushing the button for the family or group that's traveling. We're looking for an affluent traveler, 100,000 to 200,000 household income. They're educated with 51% having an undergraduate degree or higher. They have a propensity to travel 2 to 4 trips a year. And their average length of stay is around 5 nights. So that's the general person that we're kind of putting the message out to up here at the top of the funnel. But as we're qualifying them, we're using categories or what we are calling personas to bring them further through the funnel. Families, weekenders, arts and culture and history buffs, culinary travelers, outdoor recreation enthusiasts, snowbirds. And so if any of those that we're talking to up here that meet the target demographic have fit into one of those categories, we can serve them different insights and information, and we qualify them a little differently as we move them through the funnel. In partnership with the town, we have kept the 6 areas of interest as our focus effort as we work to promote the town of Bluffton in the out market. The Gullah Geechee and Cultural Heritage Corridor, history, culture, and arts as a whole, National Historic Register designations, natural beauty, waterways, and parks, local culinary and local market experiences, festivals, and events. Those are the 6 that we have said are and identified together that are important for us to be promoting 365 days a year to the out market. When we look at how we'll do that and what we're measuring success against, it's these 5 goals that we have in front of us. Essentially, it's a long-term conversation. It's the long game. We know that this is going to take time to qualify visitors. Those that have repeat, we want to speak to them a little differently than those that have been new to the brand and new to the opportunity to come and visit us. And so we really take each one of these and we can break it down in several different quadrants, but essentially we want to build the brand awareness and support the qualified visitation. We want to drive deeper discovery, right? We want them to get off, they're out of their car or off the plane and they come right here, and we want them to dive a little deeper into the destination. Eat here, sleep here, explore here, shop here. We want you to do all those things. So when you leave from your vacation, you're taking that mental snow globe of experiences with you, and hopefully a few other things, but mostly those memories with them. As we want that recall, we want them to come back. We want to leverage a strategic mix of targeted methods to identify and reach the most qualified users. So I can't emphasize that funnel visual enough. We really want to make sure that the money that we're putting out in the out market is working really hard for us and qualifying them as they come through the funnel. And we also want to create an understanding and respect for the delicate ecosystem of the destination. We do that by telling our story, right? We have the opportunity to tell the story of why the May River is so important to us, why history is so important to us, why the historic district and the growth that we've seen in the town is so important to us. It's those stories that we need to be able to tell and bring an emotion to it so people can tag into that and feel that as well, and then have a respect for where they're visiting. And obviously want to come back and explore more and deeper as they continue to travel here. And we'll always have an opportunity to enhance the leisure and group business through qualified visitations. So we've talked a lot about leisure, but there is opportunity to grow the group space, the group business, whether that be through reunions, through corporate business travel. There is space to do that and do it well here. And we want to make sure that those are talked about, those are embraced, and that we can bring them here, especially during our need time frames, right? Because they help fill the gaps, right? We never want the room to go empty. We want that room to be full, but full with a qualified user. I really enjoy this slide. I think it really visually speaks to all the things that have changed in marketing. It is an always-on, multi-pronged platform of efforts that are happening 365 days a year. So again, we've talked about it in the past where you can have a print ad in a magazine 15 years ago, and we did our job, right? Everyone was excited about the town of Bluffton or whatever product they were talking about. But here, with today's consumer and the way that they digest media and brands, we have to be on and omnipresent, if you will, and that comes through all the pieces that we just talked about. We have to be talking about PR, we have to be talking about the brand on social media, we have to have this book in all the right places. The website has to be up to date. SEO, which we could spend 3 days talking about SEO, but we won't. But SEO is that earned way of, on the back end of a website, when you're putting your brand out there, who else is out there fighting for that space on Google, right? And I think that back end opportunity has taken leaps and bounds of establishing their space, if you will. So Google wants to own so much more of the space on the top part of the website. And to do that, they are doing a lot of things on the back end that are making it harder for brands, individual brands, to have a voice on the website, or I should say on Google or any of the search engines. And so what we have to do is be ahead of the game and try to think smarter and think outside the box when it comes to promoting our brand. And so that's why SEO is going to continue to be an important piece that we have to be in a place where we're in a position where we can act quickly and be nimble. And then we have to track, report, and flex as needed based on how things are performing. This slide speaks a lot about the funnel piece, that it's just now I've turned the funnel on the side for more of a visual appealing piece, but awareness, intent, and conversion. We're pulling you through, and at every stage we're using different tools in our toolkit to make sure that you're able to understand what the brand has to offer and ultimately come to visit our website and ultimately the destination. All of that said, we are asking for the $350,000 for this coming fiscal year against these line items that you see, and it's the middle column for our proposed budget for this fiscal year, starting July 1. And that would conclude my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the budget or any of the marketing efforts that we put in place prior, or discussed prior, excuse me.
Any questions from anyone, Bridget?
Yeah, I have a few questions and a comment. First, thank you, Ariana, for your presentation. I mentioned to Charlie previously, but wanted to recognize that you all took into consideration some concerns we had last year and how you all were marketing Bluffton, and where it could have been an instance where you could have ignored it or kind of sulked. You guys really leaned in and did the work in recognizing that we did have a disconnect in seeing the vacation planner and other things that spoke, it seemed, to one particular traveler and excluded, representation that, folks of all backgrounds travel, and you have to market in those places as well. And so I commend you guys for bringing Travel Noir and Essence and a few others here, and giving them that opportunity to get those marketing dollars too, because that's what we wanted. Knowing that people travel where they see themselves, so representation matters. Question for me, in looking at your key areas of interest and target personas you've identified, you spoke about TikTok, and it's great to see that you guys do adapt to those trends. Instagram, pretty much all of social media, how people consume travel is different now. The restaurant you're going to go to, you're going to look for the hashtag of that city of whatever's going on. So I'm interested to see, is there a plan, or have you all put in any ideas of how you plan to market to those key areas of interest and adapting to those different social media trends?
Yes, ma'am. We are taking our social first approach, really utilizing that approachable and affordable opportunity to be within those platforms and really speak about the nuances that we're looking to shot from the rooftops. Start there, but also have it complement through our digital advertising that we see on Google, and then it would complement and push everyone back to that website. And what we're getting smarter at with technology is supporting us on is being able to tag everything. And you're able to then do quick real-time reports on how did this do, and being nimble with our dollars to say, you know what, let's shift those over here, let's shift these over here, but at least we have that core area of focus identified, and then we can make adjustments as needed. But social media has been a real game changer for so many reasons, but it has allowed us to be more real time with things, which I think is a real opportunity for the destination. So thank you, yes.
Thank you. And I would just lastly like to say, I would encourage you guys to continue to lean in on ensuring that you are, seeking travelers and giving that representation in all those spaces that are considerate of everyone who's interested in coming and seeing our area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer it, but y'all are pretty smart, so you just might. So one thing I'm curious about, and I know this is heads and beds driven more than anything.
Yes, sir.
But do y'all have any inkling of an idea? I noticed frequently more and more people from Hilton Head coming over here. So I realized that some of them may be staying on Hilton Head, but then they want to get off the island, and I think they're coming to Bluffton in larger numbers each year. And one thing I found interesting this weekend was, for example, Chris Shoemaker, who has his business in unincorporated Beaufort County, but he's a stalwart of Bluffton. His 5 boats ran throughout the entire weekend, and there were droves of people on those boats. And so I'm just curious, is there a connection there between, the Hilton Head environment and probably his business and people like him that are just, they're not staying necessarily here, but there's still a big segment that you're marketing for Hilton Head that's coming to Bluffton?
Absolutely, and though we focus on accommodation tax, hospitality tax for the town of Bluffton is very important as well. I mean, I think we need to consider all of it in regards to tourism. A rising tide lifts all ships in that regard, and I think there is something there, Councilman Woods, but I think that's also how do we put the technology behind tracking it, and we have just purchased into some new technology that we're excited can give us some insights to by essentially drawing a circle around different areas we'd like to look at for different time frames. And it can show us who those visitors are, how long they stayed, and it's done by your geolocation. I know it kind of sounds a little strange, but essentially if you're in an app, and the hundreds and thousands of apps that are out there, and you haven't changed your preference on geolocation and how it can track you, or you've set it or while you're using it, it's tracking you and able to see how long you were in a destination, where your home base is, things of that nature, and then can qualify you of household income, things of that nature. So I think that's what we're going to be doing going forward with the tagging of different ads. and just timeframes of different events that are happening. If we can start to put some really good storylines together of, this is why people are traveling, this is how they're transacting and moving throughout the two destinations. There is something there, and I think there is itinerary opportunities. There's things that we can do to best mesh them in terms of sharing opportunities. We've talked often about how we can even do things about promotion of events that might be in one location, but both really share in the visitorship, right? And we're going to be doing that in the coming vacation planner. We just came off that meeting, and we'll be doing more of that in general. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll pass, thank you.
Ms. Burton? Okay, well, thank you. Rayon?
Thank you both all very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Low Country Regional Transportation Authority. Ms. Mary?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to come and present our budget request and to just discuss what's happening at Palmetto Breeze. And so we appreciate coming in, filling y'all in. I guess I pushed something on here. Here we go. So not a whole lot has changed, but I'll reiterate all the things that have changed. We do have the same commuter routes. We do 7 commuter routes from all of the outlying counties to bring people to work. Once they get to Bluffton, it used to be maybe 4 years ago that we really didn't have that many people in Bluffton that came from the outlying areas. Well, that's all changed. When they come to our facility, which is just around the corner, in the morning and again in the evening, that's the transfer point, and we have a bus, a 49 passenger bus that takes all the workers that have come from the outlying areas all around Bluffton. We do RSI, we go out to Buckwalter, we go to it's the Hardyville Walmart, we do Zaxby's. We go to all of the folks that have jobs here. I think that people at the Kroger's work there, ride our buses, and Publix. So if somebody calls us and says, hey, I got a job in Bluffton, I live in Hampton, and I'm working at wherever the place is, and we don't go there, we do. We reroute the bus a little bit in Bluffton to make sure that if people are coming from the outlying counties, we'll figure out how to get them where they're going. And the same, so we're very flexible. And so if somebody's riding to a nursing home to work there and then they don't anymore, and somebody wants a different service, we'll move it on over, and we try to take care of everybody. For people that come from those outlying counties, once they start with our service, we give them the first week free. And I don't know if you know that. If you're new to a job, you get your supervisor to write us a little note, and they send it in, and we give them their first week free. We look at that as people coming in for these jobs are needing some cash and money, and they may not have a bus fare to start out. So we do that. We let them come to work their first week, and then, they get paid, and they pay for the next week. That's what 804 is, the circulator bus around Bluffton. Because we do Bluffton Breeze, and I'll show you a map and everything, we're required when a transit provider does fixed route service, which is not the commuter, but repeated service through the day, you have to provide complimentary ADA service. And what that means is if somebody cannot get to the bus or cannot navigate riding the bus, and they need to go somewhere, whether it's to groceries or wherever, if they're within 3/4 of a mile either side of our route, they fill in an application and could qualify for ADA transportation. And once they qualify, they call, and we'll go right to their door, pick them up, take them right to the grocery store, to the doctor, or wherever they need to go. And right now, because we're running the Bluffton Breeze fare free, it's on a promotion, those ADA trips are free as well. So we will go get folks that can't ride the bus and take them where they need to go. And I think that's a very useful service. People really like it. And we help with special events. And I have to say, we were happy to help out today for the groundbreaking. And we are partners with the town. And I committed years ago that whenever affordable housing comes online, and hopefully it will soon, that we are committed to providing transportation because those are people that need us. They're usually one-car families, and so they need to have a way to get into the network. That's our commuter bus map. So we have a very large reach of folks that we bring into to Bluffton and Hilton Head to go to work. This is a Bluffton Breeze. We started it, I think, 3 years ago, and we only just had it just in Bluffton and up and down the Bluffton Parkway. We expanded it a year ago, and we have the Okatee route, and so the transfer point is at the in Buckwalter Place. After you go around the circle, there's a place there the two buses meet, and one bus will go back to Okatee, and it goes to the Food Lion and up to goes by the medical buildings, by the Walmart, in front of all those stores, and over by the Walmart. It also serves USCB, and we do have at least one dedicated rider that gets off to go to USCB from in town. But we're promoting everywhere we can with the free promotion. We're getting ready to put like wayfinds, put signs on the bus stop poles. So if people walk by, they'll see a map, they'll see something, they'll stop and look at it and go, oh, wow, you can ride the bus here. We also serve the RV park, and we do get a lot of people coming to Old Town. And we have people that come to the farmers market from the RV park. And so we bring them in. So that was really good to serve them and to know that they really like to come out into town. This is a Bluffton Breeze route. It is a little busy, but that part we added is to the left, and that's up to Okatee. And you can see where the star is. That's the transfer point at the Buckwalter place. And ridership is building. We're trying very hard to promote and to get people, I don't know so much out of their cars, but just to understand that there's an alternate way to get around. I know we have, I almost know the people by name, but we have somebody that goes to physical therapy on Bluffton Parkway that gets on up at the Walmart. They live up in that area, and so that's been a godsend. They're an everyday rider. We've got college students. We've got the RV park folks, and we've got some regular riders. So it's building. Even with the trolley service on Hilton Head, it built slow. And then when we added another route, it really took off. So we're real hopeful to keep marketing and keep working on it and continue to improve the ridership. And we already talked about that. We're going to put route information at the stops. We actually have a mobility manager that's bilingual who speaks to between 20 and 30 Latinos every month that don't speak good English, and she helps them to navigate the system. We also use a language service, so if someone calls there in any language, our dispatchers immediately can call the language service and get an interpreter. And we've done Russian, we've done Chinese. We can do any language if people call. So I think that's a really great feature with the visitors if they need something. That's our little ADA van, if you see it around, and that's what we're doing, the service to the folks that the Americans with Disability Act, the folks that need door-to-door service, we do with these vans. And we have some that are higher up, look like the Amazon van, but painted like that. If you see them, that's our ADA vans. If anybody asks about it, or anybody that lives near our bus route or would need that transportation that just have them call us, because we offer that. And if somebody is 65 or 70 years old and doesn't really drive, that's enough. The doctor can say, no, they can't really get out in this traffic and get anywhere. And the application is signed by the doctor, and then they get on our service and we help them get where they need to go. We also do, hopefully we won't do it this year, but we do evacuation services if there's a hurricane. They're calling for a really record year. I hope it spares us. But in the event that we do have mandatory evacuations, we open our conference room and make it a call center, and we take calls from everybody. And we don't deploy the drivers till the afternoon, because the shelters don't open till 6 o'clock p.m. So people call in a lot of times just to see, is there transportation? Yes, there is. Do you need it? And then we make sure that every single person that calls us either gets picked up or says they don't need a ride. I mean, we follow up on everybody, make sure they get where they're going. And we made it through Matthew, and a couple more times we deployed after that, and it works really well. And our hurricane brochure basically says if you need service, we have a registry online. You can go to our website, you sign up for the registry. Everybody that's on there, we get a lot of action right before a hurricane. Our mobility manager and our dispatchers call every single person on the registry. Do you still want to be on our registry? Do you still need a ride? Okay. And if they're not answering, phone's disconnected, we mark them off. And so we have a very current list with every hurricane. And so if anybody is nervous or doesn't know what to do and needs to go to the shelter, tell them to just call, Palmetto Breeze. It's just the main number and we take care of them. And this is our budget numbers, and we have both urban, well, this is just the urban side of the budget here. And we're asking for the exact same match as last year, which is always good. But what you'll see when you look at our budget, you see the federal side, that's all federal grant money. In the state, we're doing a lot of work to try to get the state to increase how they match transit. I'm on the South Carolina Transit Association, State Association. And we've done a legislative meeting in March of this year, reception with all the legislators. And the real gist of it is that when they started the program where the state helped the transit systems in 1989, they gave $6 million to transit. And guess what? They give $6 million now. And we had a handful of systems, and there's 29 systems. And so we're trying to get the state to look at that and look at increasing that. If the state increases their money, it means less local match required. In states I've worked besides this state, the state and the local are usually equal. The state puts in the, to help with the local. How we get our money is we spend money first and then we get reimbursed, but we don't get reimbursed everything. If it's an operations line, we get 50% of our money back. If it's preventive maintenance, as you can see, it's separated. Project management, those are all 80%. So when we spend $100 and we apply to get our money back, we get $80 if it's maintenance, and we get $50 if it's operations. And that's why we have to have the match to continue our services. And you can see everything changed when the 2020 census got refreshed, because we do the urban service budget as a percent of population. And so, yeah, Bluffton's growing, and so is unincorporated Beaufort. But this percentage will stay until 2030, the next census, so that won't change again. Anybody have any questions?
Questions, Emily?
What about your fee schedule for bus riders?
We do charge fares, and I don't know what you wanted to ask me about exactly. Right now, the Bluffton Breeze is $1, but we've suspended it to get people to ride. We don't want that people not knowing how much to pay or how they pay to be a barrier that says, I'll just drive my car. So we're promoting, just get on, just try it, and so it's, our board approved the fare free through till September 30. And so the commuter buses, they pay a lot more. If you're coming up out of Hampton County, you're going to pay $4 a one-way ride. And so when you look at how we get our grant money, so let's say we spend $100 and we collected $20 in fares. This is how they do it. Take the $100 minus the fares, they call it contra. Now you have $80. And if it's operations, you're going to get 40 back. And if it's preventive maintenance, you're going to get, my math, right? We took the $20 off, you get 80% of, you get $664. That's what you get out of the 100, because you have to deduct the fares first before you get your percentage. So I don't know if that really was what you were asking. We raised the fares. What it really does is it makes the grant last longer. It doesn't give us more working money. If that makes any sense.
So use Hampton as an example. Is that the furthest distance?
That's the highest fare, $4. Yes, sir.
Someone wanted to go from Bluffton to Hilton Head, what would that fare be?
Depend which service they're using. If they get on the commuter bus that goes back and forth, it's our local fare, because they're not going very far. It's $2 one way. I mean, we would love to get to the spot, and I think we will, get to the spot where we're funded, where we have dedicated funding source, and we can expand the routes that we have. Because we use all our money to do what we're doing now. So the plan is, develop more on Hilton Head or year-round and a connector between the Bluffton Breeze and Hilton Head. And that's the long-term goal of helping to relieve the traffic across the bridge. But it takes an investment.
I just got one question. Like our Bluffton Breeze, is there a Hilton Head Breeze?
There's the Breeze Trolley.
So that stays on the
Yeah, it
island?
just stays on Hilton Head. There's two routes. There's a South Island route over there, and then there's the Mid-Island. And those trolleys stay over there, and they run from 1 o'clock till like 10 o'clock. And our service here runs 8 to 5, because we look at more like we're trying to just help with the transportation of the citizens going about their daily business. And on Hilton Head, we're looking at visitors and tourists. They're going out to dinner and coming back from the beach. We do get locals on it too. When we first started over in Hilton Head, the service was at 9 o'clock in the morning and no one rode. I mean, it wasn't until afternoon that anybody even got on the bus. So the next year we changed it and made it more of an evening thing, and it's doing really well.
Dan?
So, I know that you have to eat an elephant one bite at a time, but when we first got into this, long-term, there was a goal of the connection between Hilton Head and Bluffton eventually, so the workforce could migrate back and forth. And I know you got to get your ridership up to get to that point. Do you have any ideas when that might ever happen?
Well, I'm very hopeful. I'm a hopeful person. So you're leading me into the one solution that's not far away, and that is the penny sales tax that's going on the referendum in November. In that transportation tax is included mass transportation, and that would be the key. If that passes, of course, the money doesn't come for a year. We've got to do a lot of planning, but then we would have resources to expand the bus system. And I mean, it's a game changer. And so we're really, really hoping that comes to fruition.
And then you were going to build bus shelters at some point once you established your Bluffton route.
Right, and we certainly can at any time, because we have grant money to purchase shelters.
Right.
And if someone on the Bluffton staff wanted to contact me, I could work with them. How it's normally done is you do a partnership where we would purchase the shelters with our grant money, and then whoever's putting it in would help with the pad. And we also have, the shelters now have solar lights in them, and I mean, they're really nice, and we would love to put shelters up. And so if someone from the town staff wants to contact us, we can get it going. And I have not, it's a partnership.
Right.
We don't really we don't build pads, and we don't have a ton of money, but we could partner up and really make a difference.
Staff was just staring at me and I was staring at them. So my last question is, it's actually a thought, a request possibly, but so maybe when you do your next presentation, you can maybe do a bar graph for the last few years showing the ridership numbers taking place in Bluffton. It's a good visual tool for us to see that.
And I can send you, we have a graph where we count, it's a visual of ridership now, and I can send that on and
That would be
it can
great.
be shared with y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have a comment and a question. So in terms of your ridership, you said is not where you want it to be. I know one of the solutions that was proposed before, and I hope Bluffton gets to it, is identifying a commuter lot. You know, being in this area, many people don't live here without having transportation because you need it. And so it's an inconvenience to be able to try to get to a route, like if there's not a stop nearby. And so I think if we make it more convenient for residents to be able to frequent it, kind of how we see how much you are utilized during events, you know, if people know, well, I can park my vehicle in this area, then everyone's going to drive there, park, because they know they can get on the shuttle, and that shuttle is going to stop back every 30 minutes, every hour. So I think that's imperative to come together with some type of collaboration on that, because if we don't identify that convenience for citizens, and it's going to be like, what's the purpose? I might as well get in my car and get there anyways, because I'm not gonna trek 3 miles or whatever it is and then wait.
And I truly believe this area in Bluffton and Hilton Head and even 170 and Beaufort, as it congests up more and more and more, you can't build your way out of it. And so people have to change what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people that are coming here and coming from up north, they're very familiar with transit services and how they help out. And I think I came in 2014 and, it was a lot less people then and it wasn't like it is now. And people really didn't have any reason to think differently. But I think you look at our roads today, and if a family could let go of one car insurance, one repair, one everything, and be able to use the bus instead of the other car, it would make a huge difference to them and to our traffic issues and our safety on the roads and all the things. I mean, they all go together. And, I think that transit is part of the solution, but I think that penny sales tax is going to be our jump off point. If that doesn't come through, that's what Palmetto Breeze needs, is some kind of dedicated funding. The difficulty in the state of South Carolina, you're only allowed to use sales tax or property tax. And the third one is you can tag on to the vehicle registration, which I brought up at one time, but to all the budget presentations. But there's very few funding mechanisms. I've worked in other states where they allow localities or counties to raise funds how they want to and dedicate them to transit and transportation. In South Carolina, it's not that way. So that's why it's difficult if you don't have a dedicated funding source. So we're working on grants and local match. And so it goes up very slow, as far as growing.
Well, that's where that partnership hopefully is gonna come in at. And my question is, you mentioned special events, and I wasn't aware of policy that you all have when it comes to events. So if an event organizer wanted to use you all because you're a federally funded transit authority, you have to actually put bids out to private charters first, and then if they don't respond within a certain time, then you'd be able to offer a quote to someone to utilize your service.
Let me talk about that for the town and for everybody. So what happens is, we are prohibited from competing with private charter companies. And this has been going on probably 20 or 30 years. I've been in this 35 years. So in the beginning, there was no restrictions and public transit could operate things in the evening and make some money and all of that. And then the charter providers complained because the government pays for our buses, it pays for our insurance, it pays for everything. So the man that's buying all his own things, that's unfair to him. And I agree. So what happens is we can provide, we call it special events, not charters, because we're not allowed to do charters. We do special events for our partners. So if it's the town of Bluffton, like today, the town of Bluffton, not, the Rotary or 3 North or whatever that group is. There's groups that do this and they get ATAX money. Well, they're a private entity in our view. But if the town of Bluffton, the town of Hilton Head, the town of City of Beaufort, or any of the counties that we partner with, we're taking their local money and they ask us if we can help them. We do it, and we do it it's a variable rate. It's a little bit cheaper than the charter companies. So what happens is if an organization, I'll just use the Rotary because we ended up doing something for them. They come to us and they say, hey, we know you can't really do this, but everybody we've called is booked. And it's got to be at least 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance. We have a charter website that the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, set up that we go in, and there's probably 100, 150 charter operators for this area, and they're from all over. But we put it in and say, we're in Bluffton, and this is what's the situation, can anybody do it? And we keep that record that we did it, and then all the responses that come back. And sometimes somebody will say, yeah, I can do that, and then we'll tell whoever is doing it, well, these people said they can do it, and we have to back out. But if you go, we get all the way up to a week before and no one can do it, we've got all the no's, no one can do it, then we go ahead and do the event. And I know it's difficult if we did something for you last year and then this year we're saying that we can't do that because that's our rules. And I understand what they are, but it's kind of difficult sometimes for somebody calling us to understand why.
Right.
We didn't just start the policy, it's been like that for a long time.
Thank you for explaining. I just wanted everyone to be able to kind of, those who didn't know that, to know that.
Yeah.
You say you agree, I disagree. I think, in this society, if we're going to have a free market that's supposed to, everyone should be able to compete on their own laurels, it seems counterproductive that you all, in terms, are going to be slighted because you cannot compete with private entities.
Yeah, but the private entities pay for all their capital and we don't. And so that they went to the government, the FTA, and said this isn't fair. And it took them about 10 years to really get the traction to.
When you go into business, that becomes a part of, the risk that you take, so. But hopefully, some success comes with you all. Thank you.
Yeah, just one comment or one question first. Right now, your schedule for Bluffton Breeze, tell us, where does it go? When does it go? Is there a set schedule where you?
Oh, yeah, there absolutely is. And it's on our website. We have 2 buses that run just the Bluffton part because it takes 2 hours to make the whole loop. So it's hourly service. And then
Hours to make a loop in Bluffton?
yes, yes.
Oh,
With all the stops.
All the songs
Yeah,
they
and,
have.
and we go from Buckwalter, we come down the Parkway, then we go up Buck Island, then we come down Arley Way or whatever, and then we mosey around. We go into Old Town, we go up to Walmart, we go down to Tanger, yeah, it takes time. And we don't want them to speed, and I give them recovery time. They get about 15 minutes at the end of every 2 hours. So if they're late, they can catch back up or go to the restroom.
well, I like Dan's idea, about the shelter and to get more people interested and more riders. I think if it was a little bit easier and there were shelters that said bus arrives at 10:30 and returns at 11:30 or whatever.
And I think it's absolutely correct. You put up a couple nice bus shelters and people are going to be curious. What is that? And, oh, there's a map and there's a sign and wow, did you know this? Because I think that a lot of people don't know that we're out there.
Yeah, I agree. And not everyone, has the capabilities of going online and looking at your website and, so. Okay. Any more questions from council?
I have one. So, and this is directed to our DMO. Are they part of our marketing at all? I mean, as far as ridership with, if you come to Bluffton or whatever, is there a blurb or anything saying they're out there or?
The buses? And DMO, do you mean the chamber?
Yes.
We partner with the chamber a lot, and I have a marketing guy, and he sends messages out, and I think we tag on to some of what they're doing to get stuff out to visitors.
Okay. That is wonderful.
And yeah, I have a marketing guy that helps a lot because he really is into it, and he'll be putting together the maps and displays for the bus stops now. And hopefully, we can get some shelters going. That'd be great.
Okay, if no one else has anything else, thank you for coming and,
Welcome. Push that down button for the next one.
Appreciate okay, up next, we got some discussion of carryover items from the May 16th budget workshop meeting. You have 3 minutes, sir. Please state your name.
All quick. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So, carryover items, there weren't really much that came up during our discussion, during the meeting. I did get with, here's my notes. I did get with Councilman Frazier afterwards since she wasn't able, to attend the meeting, but, and talk about a couple things that she would have brought up that night. One of which was one that we actually touched on that night, which she wanted to make sure with the neighborhood assistance program. As we discussed that night, that actually between the initial presentation at first reading and when we had our first workshop, we increased that number about $144,000. Since then, we have found out that we did receive approval for our grant. We'll look at getting everything signed, and that will start July 1, and we'll supplement our funds for the neighborhood assistance program up to $544,000 for the fiscal year starting in July 1. If you remember back about 2-3 budgets ago, we were at about $190,000 for the neighborhood assistance program. So this is about a 250% increase on where we were a couple of years ago. And you heard with Councilman Hamilton talking about Vicky at the groundbreaking today. She's really taken that program, and I think we could give her an unlimited checkbook and she would go nonstop. So we do have to have some boundaries in there, but we are at 544 for the coming fiscal year with the budget. One other item that that Councilman Frazier brought up was related to process with payments. She brought up a question about our police. We only, and came up and discussed with the chief, and we'll work with finance trying to figure this out. Right now, our police only take cash payments. After everything that we just went through with the towing companies and all of that, they kind of run separately than we do from the front office up here. So we're going to look at trying to get those tied in so we can make sure that we can take multiple forms of payment and we can hold ourselves accountable to the same way we're holding others. So they're working on that right now. We'll make sure we get that transition taken care of as soon as we can.
Wait, I'm confused.
Tickets?
What are you talking about?
So if you come in and you ask for a copy of your like police report,
Oh,
they only take cash at the front counter.
Oh,
So if you need multiple copies and it's, say you ask for 4 copies and it may be $20, we have people that have to go to like Publix or Kroger and get cash back or go to the ATM and come back and then pay. So again,
Be able to accept.
undue burden on our citizens. So we're going to work and make sure, just like where customer service up here, we can take cash, check, card. We're going to work and get them signed up and be similar to what we do here at Town Hall so we can make sure that we can accept all forms of payment.
that's easy.
Sounds easy. We're going to make it easy. We're going to get it done. The other thing that I had is that one of the things that Beaufort County is looking at, and I'll give you an update on it in just a second, but they are looking went through their, the Community Services and Land Use Committee is to potentially amend the single-use plastic ordinance. It came out in the Low Country Inside Tracks. I'm not sure if I sent it out on the weekly report or not, but they mentioned that they were going to try to coordinate with all the towns so we would match. It did pass their committee, but when it went to county council for first reading on Monday, it failed 4-7 at first reading. My understanding is they're going to go back and look at the language again and then look at trying to bring it back. But what they're trying to address with this is more expanding it from just single-use bags to straws, styrofoam, and containers similar to that. So one of the things that, and again, it may or may not go forward. They've reached out to us to let us know that it's potentially coming down. But once it failed at first reading, we'll see what they come back with and if it's going to continue forward. Again, whether the county moves forward or not, if it's something that council wants to look into, staff will be more than glad to look. But
Who brought that up? Who's pushing for it?
the county, so it went through their committee.
Came from the county, and then the county says no.
So it went through committee, it went to the county. I have not looked at the recording from the meeting on Monday, but one of the groups that is pushing for it reached out to all town manager and said they're going to go back and look at the language based on the discussion that county council had and see if they can amend the language to get it to something that county council may support. All that being said, one of the things that Councilman Frazier brought up was if we do take action like that, or if we want to look at ways to encourage our restaurants to be more environmentally conscious and look at whether it's compostable, whether it's cardboard, non-plastic, non-styrofoam, to-go container serving, or utensils and so forth. She brought up about looking at some sort of program. She's talked about it for a while now. With what's coming with the county, it was kind of an opportunity to kind of revisit it and see if it's something that may be feasible. So I don't know, do you want to talk about your thoughts, and then I can talk about some options if you want me to?
Sure. So this came up before as a suggestion, and so when I got the email, I think like last month sometime, it was mentioned that the county was making the proposal. A lot of our food and beverage businesses are already working on a system where they do use a lot of compostable food items in terms of like to go. And so the thought was, if that does become something that's enforced, or even if we wanted to take the lead to, work on how do we make things a little more environmental friendly, what could we do in terms of incentivizing those who do it? Because it is a higher cost. It's not an extremely higher cost, but it is a higher cost for food and beverages who choose to go from styrofoam to using, more eco-friendly items. And a suggestion that came out was that in order to do that, you can't waive, certain fees, but we could put them on like a reimbursement type system where they show whatever their purchases are, either for a quarter or for a year, then they could get X amount of those funds just for their, I guess you would call them like their paper supplies. They would get a certain amount of those funds back, whether it's from like H-tax or whatever it is. And so the idea was if the county is going to go to that route, it'd be good to at least think of it and not wait until we get there to try to come up with a solution, to at least have something ready to say, well, this is what we could offer those who would opt into that enforcement if it came to that.
And one of the kind of the options that I mentioned to Councilman Frazier, if it was something that, if it goes into place, if we want to say, hey, we realize there's a additional cost in complying, is we could look for, the only ones that this would really affect would be those that are paying H-tax to the town, the hospitality tax, because they're a food and beverage provider, is we could look and say, hey, we'll provide, we can't discount, we can't do any of that kind of stuff, just like property taxes, but it may be a grant program where it's $50 a quarter or something like that a quarter to help offset costs. But we could put some guidelines, put some guides, some bullet points in place if it was something that council wanted to look into. Because it would be a program the council would have to vote to put into place. And if we did want to put the restrictions or expand the single-use plastic ordinance, like with the county, we would have to adopt that as well. So I don't think it's a conversation that has to be solved tonight. It was really more of Councilman Frazier just wanting to have that conversation to put it in council's head, especially with the county actually approaching the single-use plastic ordinance and looking to expand it. So just kind of thoughts in the head, some ideas. And as we go into the budget, should this happen, it may be something we want to revisit or a program we may want to look at putting in place.
Yeah, that could get very complicated, in my opinion. I'm open-minded to listen and hear what everybody has to say. Right off the bat, I think of the hundreds of thousands of plastic containers that are used in the grocery store every time you go to buy a chicken salad or a salad, or, you know, what are we going to do with those people? You know, they create more plastic trash than all the restaurants together. You know what I mean? Because their volume is just so high. And if we try to fund the ones that are, you know, like myself and you know what I'm talking about, that 2% is huge. Our H-tax is,
Right.
It's a lot of money. So I don't know how we could, you know, separate just the ones that are paying H-tax, which I guess the grocery stores are paying
would be
H-tax
paying
Yeah, you have a
H-tax.
list.
on that
Yeah.
prepared food, but there's a lot of stuff that's not prepared that's in a plastic container as well. So I mean, it could get
And again, we didn't want to
all about the environment.
we didn't want to design it and build it and
Yeah,
figure out how to
just
implement it tonight. It was really more of just something that she would have brought up at first reading
Right.
to say, you know, should this come into place, this is something that she's had in the back of her mind that she's really, I know we've discussed it several times, but just without whether council is gonna, you know, if it's not put in place, and the other option would be to offer it as encouragement, should that happen. But again, we're not here to legislate it tonight, to
Right.
write the bullet points. It was really more just to put that in your mind.
In
And
your foresight. And going to it, to respond to Councilman Ramir Toomer, Councilman Wood's adage is, do you eat the elephant one bite at a time? I don't know why you would eat the elephant. You'd be there forever trying to eat it. But, you know, in talking about, you know, being apprehensive because of the plastics, it's like, we know it's a problem. You know, we don't want to never address it, similar to our approach with septic. We know that sewer, for some, has always been the preference. And to say, well, if everyone's on it, you know, let's just stick to what we have. We know we're not going to solve it overnight. Some people are going to opt in, some people are not. It's at least if we went to that choice, we were prepared with something, opposed to trying to make something up on the fly. I'm always about how can we mitigate situations and not wait for it to be a problem that we're trying to react to. I'd rather be proactive if it presents itself.
And like I said, I haven't watched the council meeting from Monday. So I'll, as part of putting the weekly report together for tomorrow, I'll go and see if I can't find the link, send the time stamp with that and send it out with council. And if you want to go back and watch it I'll watch it as well, and we can see what the discussion was and just kind of educate ourselves on what potentially may be coming or potentially not. But again, it was something that would have been discussed during the first reading if the first workshop, if Councilman Frazier would have been here, so I wanted to make sure it got its due, its same time and discussion as it would have
Let
been.
me make a quick observation.
Yes, ma'am.
The, because you weren't here. And we supported it, but it was a heavy lift to get the bag ban. And to get everybody in all the municipalities, I think, joined in with the county to do that, but that was a very heavy lift. And one of the things I learned about that after the fact, the Coastal Conservation League came to me like a year later and wanted to go back and revisit that, but I said, I thought it was just putting a bullet in your head, but what we learned from that was, from Charleston, that the plastic bags that we approved and got people to use was not the right meal weight. The whole idea was to keep the wildlife in the rivers and the waterways from eating this stuff, but we didn't do that. So we passed a bag ban throughout the county. And again, there's supposed to be a thicker bag that the porpoises and everything can't eat, they won't eat. And so when we go down this road, and I'm not saying I'm gonna for it, but if we go down this road, we're gonna have to do our homework to make sure that we're not overlooking anything.
And the Coastal Conservation League is the one that reached out and called them in. They're the ones that are making the push again, so I'm sure they're not gonna let it lie, but we'll keep you, like I said, I wanted to give it its discussion just like it would have had, and then I'll send out some more information with the weekly report tomorrow on what they're proposing, and then you can see the council meeting. Again, first reading was no, so we'll see if they go back and revisit and look to change or bring anything back, and we'll keep you up to date on that.
Yeah, she must, I didn't get any, this is the first time I heard about it. Is that?
No, it was in our email.
Was it? I missed it. Okay, I just missed it.
Okay, all right, so, we get everything? I think the
Mental
only other
health.
one I had a note on was the mental health advocate.
Yeah.
I've already talked to Joe on that, chief, and he's, reaching out to the coastal,
Empire.
yes, ma'am. And he's also working with, it's the right direction to look at having additional mental health support within the department and whether it's through, with partnerships outside of just our advocate themselves.
Because the concern was the position when it was originally budgeted, and I'm grateful to council who agreed and voted in favor of it. It wasn't for an advocate. It was supposed to be a full-time position for a certified mental health professional, like a behavior specialist, who had those qualifications to be able to give the type of services that would be needed in a mental health crisis for like de-escalation. And currently our advocate is limited in what they're able to do, and it's more like a follow-up, definitely being able to give crisis training and things like that. But in terms of if someone is in the thick of having, that meltdown, we don't have someone right now with the qualifications to be able to talk them down or walk them down. And that was what that position was supposed to be budgeted for. So I just wanted to make sure we are visiting that, and we are making what it was budgeted for. We're actually doing right by that.
And as I think you all are aware, if not, then our current mental health advocate is leaving. Her last day is in June. June 21st. Right, and so we're going through the process of replacing her, so that will be taken into account, as well as with the partnerships that we may potentially have with the Coastal Group and the Right Group. Then they may have people who can actually be in there when we de-escalate. They can actually provide counseling. Because one of the risks that we don't want to run into is if we actually provide counseling by our people and something negative comes of that, it can open up some potential. But if we have partners that we can de-escalate, they can counsel, then it's a great partnership to make sure everybody gets exactly what they need out of that response. All right.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. So tonight, as we know, we've heard from some of our partners that we have. We also use this as a chance to kind of revisit anything that comes up for first reading. we just kind of completed that. There wasn't really anything major that came up during first reading outside of the discussion that took place. So, going to start with just where we are in the process. As you can see, this is Council Budget Workshop number 2. This is where we focus on capital improvement programs. So this is our CIP projects. Well, that's kind of redundant. This is our capital improvement projects. We're going to go through those tonight and talk about the funding and then the different projects and which funding supports each project. So just as a reminder, this is our proposed 2025 consolidated budget. You can see it totals a little over $90,600,000, of which the capital improvement program fund makes up about 36.5% of the overall budget. That is a decline from this current budget year. As we talked about, we're completing some projects, so there's not nearly as much fund balance moving forward. So again, the goal is to see that number continue to decline as we get projects completed, but continue to stay high enough that we're accomplishing the goals that council wants to accomplish. So, where did the funding come from? We're going to kind of go through the different funds and talk about how they move to fund and what projects they fund. So the general fund sends out about $1.2 million to the capital improvement program. You can see these are the projects that those funds are looking to go for fiscal year 25. One of the newer ones that you'll see in there's a public art program. That's our new public art committee. We've started setting funding aside for them to do projects. Actually, one of the first projects that they just voted on yesterday? Or Tuesday? Tuesday was to partner with Bluffton Breeze to do wraps on the bus to help draw more attention and try to bring out more ridership to draw attention to Bluffton Breeze. So that was one of the things they were going to put out for bids, as well as some art in front of Squire Pope and as well as Oyster Factory Park. There's been places reserved for those, and that's where this funding will go to help put those art pieces in place. Hospitality tax, as you can see, this makes up a large portion of it. It's just short of $5 million. And a lot of these are going into our tourism facilities, our park facilities, some roads, sewer projects, everything that kind of ties into bringing people into town and supporting our restaurants, our businesses, and all of events and hospitality.
Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Question or a comment, and it's really something that council would have to put their 2 cents in on, and it may be too late this year, but going forward.
Good time in hospitality taxes, 2 cents.
Well, the first year, I believe, if I say this correctly, we did the land purchase fund. I think it was $1 million, and then after the second year, we cut it to $500,000. I'm wondering, you know, with the cost of everything has escalated so high, and we've spent the money, so we don't have that money today. So we're going to have to refund it for $500,000. And I guess the question I would put out there is, when we spend the money, should the minimum be $1 million instead of $500,000? Because you're not going to buy anything with $500,000 at all. So it's just a thought.
No, I agree. And one of the things that we were looking at as we move forward into later in this year is the same thing that we did this past fiscal year. So when we did our carry forward budget amendment, we actually put an additional, I think it was $2 million. Instead of that money just going straight into fund balance, we put it into the land purchase program. And that actually, you know, helped bring that fund up so we could do the purchase of Buck Island. And it also gave us the amount of funding we needed to, for what we're obligated for on our partnership. So that was one of the things we were looking at as we move forward into the carry forward budget. If council would like to look at addressing it within actual funding, we would have to kind of go back and make some changes between now and second reading. Chris, is there anything I missed on that?
No,
Do you have enough?
This is second reading?
Second reading is at the next council meeting. We'd have to fix it between now and second reading. If you'll help me, Chris and Ally, I think we're anticipating about $3 million in surplus.
Fiscal year? I say yes, she says well.
Okay. So there should be funds available when we do carry forward. Right now we're looking, we'll say between $2 and $3 million of of revenues over expenditures that we would have available and carry forward that we could then use to put that money into land acquisition when we do carry forward amendment.
Is this taking into consideration what we've already got in the pipeline?
When we get to the actual projects, you'll see it does take that into consideration because technically we still have about $3 million in the pipeline. And we may have a couple $1 million of that held for a project, but it won't be spent until next fiscal year. So when we get there, you'll see those funds still available, or still showing as being spent next fiscal year.
I'm in, agreement with Dan, but I also I thought that we, talked about how we're going to spend the money when we do put money in land acquisition. Because everybody, as we remember, everybody want to sell us something. So I like to make sure that we identify when we want to make a purchase and before we just say that we want to save, we want to bank $10 million. Sometimes they'll look like we got it to spend, but let's all be on the same page of why we're spending it and what the purpose when we do purchase it, how we're going to earmark it.
Well, yeah. We got to have it in the budget before, and we got to be ready to pull the trigger, so to speak, if something critical comes up, and not have to wait till the next year or we got to have the money to be shopping.
Right, again, if something critical comes up, we do have fund balance that can be used for one-time purchases that we can then replenish as we need to. And something like land acquisition would be an ideal one-time purchase for that fund balance. Just because it's not sitting in the land acquisition fund doesn't mean that we can't use those funds to buy land should something pop up.
Let me put the question a different way. What would staff recommend?
I guess what exactly are you asking?
Pardon me?
What exactly are you asking?
In other words, should the land acquisition $500,000 move up to maybe 1 million minimum to have it there, and then you could always build it up over time instead of going to the fund balance and taking money. You're going to have to go back and replenish it if you take it from the fund balance. So I'm saying we probably should, and I think Councilman Hamilton just said he'd support it, but I think we need to say there needs to be a minimum whenever we deplete that line item. And so the question is, would we get a staff recommendation to move that number up, or how would you do it? Or would you just?
Are you asking for a policy that defines a minimum balance that remains in there?
I'm asking you for a recommendation.
Based on the comments, staff's recommendation is what you see presented. But if you think, based on the comments, if you are wanting to see a minimum balance, kind of like what we have done for neighborhood assistance program, where we've set those funds aside, we can always put a program in place to say we want to keep a minimum of X in there. But
I think
Because that wouldn't be a staff
I
thing,
think
that
he's
would be
putting
council.
staff on the spot by asking that question. I wouldn't do that. Plus, unless you ask them, to fund the money, Chris, you got $1 million?
that's why I made the comment about the goal was to bring it when we do carry forward, because we will have the money available then to then put into the account. When we bring that, we can have a program to discuss at that time to say that we're going to prime it and this is going to be the minimum that we're going to keep in there.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be solved tonight.
Right, and we got to remember too, we've got money in other things, that we don't know exactly what we're going to do or who we're going to spend it on or what we're going to fix with it or any of that. My biggest goal is my personal feeling is I want to know that we have money available if something comes up, that we can buy some critical land or take some density units off or whatever we do. I don't want an opportunity for us to do something that we're all saying we're in agreement of doing, and then you guys say, well, we don't have them, we didn't budget it. So, and when it comes to land purchases or purchasing densities or whatever, it's all expensive, so,
So
however y'all want to handle it's fine with me. I just want to make that clear that,
So as of right now, the budget is balanced based on what's presented. So increasing it by $500,000 would require us to find $500,000 somewhere else to reduce. So my recommendation would be, this is a great discussion item for strategic planning in the fall. And then as long as we know that going into the budget process, then we can program it as part.
perfect.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Emily?
No, I appreciate the discussion. This is a very important topic, and as we found out through this year, it's something that is a priority that we want to make sure that when we have the opportunity to buy land, take the density off, that council is willing and excited to take that opportunity to do so, so.
That's Larry only now.
Sir?
Remember, Larry's the only person that said that.
Oh, I thought I heard y'all support it. Y'all voted on it.
But I'm agreeing.
You agreed with it before when I mentioned it.
I took the vote to buy the land on Buck Island, it was supported, so.
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Agreed with that one too.
All right, so, local accommodations tax. This one is looking a little over $1.6 million. Again, a lot of parks, roads, things that bring people to our community that they use while they're here. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of those. You'll see in there as well, Squire Pope Carriage House. As we go forward, that's a finish out for the Welcome Center. And we'll talk about that when we get into the projects for next year. Stormwater. Now, these are his favorite things. These are ones that are sewer and runoff, protection of the May River. As you can see, we have historic district that says phase 6, that's 4, 5, and 6. We also have the comprehensive drainage plan and May River action plan restoration. Those are the ones where they're doing the study for right now. What comes out of those would be the projects we would look to do. Not the ones that you like to ask questions on. This is more fixing the drainage issues like Councilman Hamilton brought up about Crooked
Well, I
Creek.
saw a while ago where
Okay.
And then last is our debt service fund, and these are ones that transfer out to the capital. Again, it's about 8.2 million. Most of these are parks, again, roads. One of the big ones you see is the economic development. That's the Buckwalter Multi-County Commerce Park. So that's where we're doing the economic development program project out there. Several parks. Then we'll get into a little more detail here in a minute. So, as I talked about a minute ago, the CIP budget makes up a little short of 37% of the consolidated overall budget. It reports financial resources that are restricted, committed, assigned for expenditures related to capital outlays, land acquisition, which we just had a good conversation about, and construction of capital facilities and assets. They are primarily non-recurring in nature. That means it's building a project or it's one and done. Anything that's greater than 5,000, except for roads, building, and computer software, falls into this, and any of those programs have to be $50,000 or more. So we use our guiding documents to figure out which projects that we are going to support, and they start with our comprehensive plan, which leads into our strategic plan. We talked a little bit about May River Shed Action Plan a minute ago. Our Old Town Master Plan, our neighborhood plans, corridor plans, all those great plans that council has adopted to give direction and to staff on how they want to see things addressed or what priorities there are. We use those to guide the funding and the priority of the projects moving forward.
Kids.
So with that process, we review the current needs and available funding sources. We bring y'all a prioritization of CIP projects when we have our annual strategic planning workshop every year. We take them through Planning Commission as they go through, and then we bring them to town council consideration for approval during the year. You see them at workshops. When we have our quarterly workshops, we bring updates, get input, and then the goal is to get them to completion, which is always the primary goal. So the project work, as you can see, it makes up planning and design, community engagement, any acquisition, permitting, construction, and then ultimately completion and turnover to public services for maintenance. So where does, again, the sources of revenues come from? We went through several of these on what projects they're funding, but you can see what makes up the funding for, that goes in the CIP projects. The largest of which is the TIF, where we're transferring in from the TIF bond. And then, the largest is CIP fund balance. These are projects that have been funded that are continuing forward from the previous fiscal year. And then hospitality makes up the third largest at about 15%. And they make a total of about $33.2 million to fund our capital projects. And again, where they go, broken up into categories, you'll see economic development, facilities, housing. Our largest by far is park projects, followed by stormwater and sewer. This kind of gives you a layout of where our capital projects are occurring throughout the town, and then the ones within the old town. So a little bit for the kind of broken down based on the different categories within the 25 capital improvement program. As you can see, this is economic development, housing, and land acquisition. You can see the breakdown of those. There's only one project for each of those. An economic development, that's the multi-county commerce park. That's where we have the partnership with Dolnick to build the facilities over there on our property next to the PD. Also have the affordable housing project. That is what we broke ground on today. That will carry forward into next fiscal year. And then land acquisition, as you can see, that shows with the 500,000 added, just short of 3 million. Right now, we know about 2 million of that is being held with the MOU that we have. So we'll be sitting at about $1 million available based on that being held. Talked about, we have plans to get that back up. So next one is facilities. These are town-owned buildings. You can see we have the Squire Pope Carriage House, the Law Enforcement Center, facility improvements. These are includes HVAC and finishing out where they are putting an impound lot in the back so they can hold cars on site, not have to pay out to tow companies to hold anything that is evidence. We have the Sarah Riley Hooks Cottage, which is the beginning of renovations out there at Sarah Riley Hooks. And then the town facilities ADA compliance is new. This current fiscal year, we should be finishing up in the next few weeks. We did a facility study. We actually studied every facility that we had. We looked at the potential growth to see what we may need in terms of space when it comes to build out and hiring a future staff, hiring a police, and look at some recommendations. We're expecting to get that back shortly. A couple other things that we're getting with that study is one is going to be a maintenance schedule so we can start planning for future improvements to roofs, HVAC, and features like that are expensive and that come up on replacement every 10, 20 years or so. And then the other thing they're giving us is some ADA recommendations that we may need to make for our facilities to make them more ADA compliant, to make sure that we are following federal guidelines. So we're putting some funds aside in anticipation of getting those ADA improvements that are being recommended so we can go back and make those improvements to our facilities. So some of the ones that we're looking to have that we completed this current fiscal year or will be completing this current fiscal year, town hall improvements. There's a picture of that pretty generator that purrs whenever it cranks up. I can hear it out my window. I think it's also where the mayor may crash whenever the next hurricane comes. We also talked about the space needs assessment. We put that on there as well. And then Squire Pope Carriage House. That's been the renovations to the actual historic portion of the house will be completed this fiscal year. What you'll see in the future is when we start talking about the upfit for the Welcome Center on the inside. That's what fiscal year 25 is. You can see the Welcome Center portion of it. And then as well for the Law Enforcement Center, this is where we talked about the impound lot as well as air conditioning system being replaced. Next is IT. This is what, every time I turn around, they're gone. Tracy, this is Tracy's programs. So this is to continue to add additional public safety cameras and replace ones that we've been doing this for about 6 years now. So when you start talking about technology and the quality of cameras that are 5, 6 years ago, It's just like anything with technology, it's time to start replacing or upgrading. So she works in consultation with public services and the police to make sure that we're keeping our security cameras up to date and expanding them into new parks and facilities as we need to. There's network improvements. This is to make sure to replace some of our wireless access points and to replace some switches within the facilities to make make sure everything operates efficiently in servers. So for 24, what was completed is several things. We've implemented new business license software, which we've received several compliments on from businesses throughout the community and its ease of use. Also fixed some issues at the watershed and police department buildings to update switches and wireless spots to make things work better. And also replace wireless access points in our town parks. Again, when you put them in 6-8 years ago, technology that was there doesn't match to what we have today. So it's time to start replacing some of those things. I feel like somebody's playing a trick on me. All right, parks.
You need IT help.
I don't know, I felt like she was sitting back there with the clicker, and every time I went one way, she went the other.
I think he was just messing with it so we'd give him more money to get a new one.
We're good. Hey, funding, we've cut off purchasing for the year right now. We're good. So, next one is parks. As you can see, this is our largest, 11.5 million. This shows you what is being planned for fiscal year 25 for parks. We have Oyster Factory Park. This is we're looking at bathrooms and some other things down there. Oscar Fraser Park. This is, I think, shade cells for the playground that's over there. New Riverside Park, that's the big one. That's where all the money's going towards. And then New Riverside Trail, again, that's what we ground broke today, that we'll take it and continue the improvements for phase 1 and then into phase 2 of that, 2 and 3 into that program. The Buckwalter Place West Park improvements, that's the one that we purchased from Evercore. If you've gone out there, you've seen some landscaping in, but the next phase is to put lighting, some shelters out there, and those features that our community comes to expect within the facilities and parks that we operate to make sure it's meeting our expectations. So in 24, some that we've completed, you can see the shade sails over at Buckwalter Park for the playground area. There's a very beautiful picture of the Oyster Factory Park post renovations, even though there still are a few punch item lists that are being done, punch list items. We also completed some hardscape and drainage improvements out at Oyster Factory. Does not look like we're gonna have, if you drive by, construction has not started yet. So the splash pad at Oscar Fraser is not gonna be open. We're waiting on DHEC permit for that, but we're still hoping late summer, we're gonna have that up and running. So.
I think I saw some equipment.
The equipment's in, we're waiting on our DHEC permit, and we've been fighting with our state legislators are working to help us, but once we get a DHEC permit, they're ready to rock and roll. So.
Question on the bottom picture.
Yes, sir.
Area right there, how is that area gonna be used?
So it's just a congregation area. One of the things that we've seen just since it's reopened is we've seen people try to put tables up there. So we're actually gonna look to amend the regulations for using that when people rent it, to make it so that they can't put any of the oyster tables up there, because we don't want it damaged from them dragging those oyster tables up there.
But you could put a regular banquet table.
Yeah, as long as they have the covered feet, so it's not just metal or
I agree, they don't need to be put.
Where would the oyster tables reside?
in the gravel area,
Okay.
in the grounds.
So what about chairs? Like I said, tables and chairs go with tables, but right now it's just kind of uninviting.
Right now, it's a space that people can repurpose for whatever they need. But we don't want them dragging the huge oyster tables that we have. They may put tables and chairs there.
Yeah, but I mean, around the base of that tree, is that a bench?
Yes, that's a bench around the base of the tree there.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to sit on the edge over here too.
If you go out,
I've seen a couple up there with a little small table having a picnic, through the weekend or in the last couple of days.
the side that you can't see on the picture you would be looking at from the water is actually elevated for seating around the edge of it.
And
So
the
it's-
fire pit's right there.
Yeah, right next to the fire
In
pit.
that half wall.
Yeah, it's a pretty good build.
But outside of the bench and the seating, there is no purpose for that position unless there's an event going on or unless people just want to go and use it.
I'm assuming you'll have dancing there at some point.
A
Already had
lot,
it.
could be used for.
Already had it.
Think of it, Fred, like a, artist looking at a canvas, an event planner would see that, and it's the options of what and how that space could be utilized is very,
I can't see that far, Bridget.
You need to ride down there, it's not far from here.
Picture this, Fred. So when the splash pad comes, Bridget's having a beach party, and we're all gonna be there in our bathing suits and
She got
hang out.
now the language he would understand is imagine Frankie Beverly and Maze came for a concert, that would be the bandstand right there, or the dance floor.
Probably the dance floor since I assume
got a
that's set
nice
up on the other one by the
bandstand
water.
Make sure you put some barriers around before they start dancing. And 'cause I've seen Dan dance and he don't dance with any rhythm.
We'll have the chief and Chris out there giving lessons, don't worry.
Let's put an age limit on getting up there.
So for 25, what do we hope to accomplish? Again, we have several park improvements. I mentioned the Shade Pavilion at Buckwalter Park. We're looking at the restrooms at Oyster Factory. We know they need some improvements and also looking at ways that we may be able to add a couple additional facilities while we're renovating. Again, we anticipate the splash pad going in past July 1, so we've got that in the budget, moving forward into the budget for next year, as well as shade sails over the play area over there. And then new Riverside Barn, again, the big portion of the playground and the barn renovations will take place in next fiscal year. The roads, most of these are streetscapes. So we have in the budget for next year to do the Boundary Street streetscape. That and Pritchard are our next two, and then Calhoun will be the last one. So we're in the process of getting Boundary ready to go out to bid right now. So that's all that funding in there is to complete that in next fiscal year.
Would it be possible, I know it is, but I mean, at some point, do a little workshop again on the Boundary Street? So council hasn't seen the drawings in quite some time.
Yes, it would be good to bring that one in, Pritchard, as part of one of the workshops coming up for council in the next couple quarters.
Let's see, Heather's writing that down to make sure.
And by the way, the new Riverside Park, when was that playground or whatever the area, when will it be accessible to the public?
So the playground is supposed to be open the end of this calendar year. The barn will be next year. So what we're working with them is once the playground, restrooms and all that are ready to open, they'll move the fence so it's just over the area they're actually constructing in and the playground will open. So we'll look to have probably ground break the park and then 6 months later or so, 8, 9 months later, ground break the barn. Or not ground break, ribbon cut.
It looks like pretty substantial exterior progress being made on the barn.
Not much exterior left. I think they've taken.
From the road.
Yeah. If you pull up to the fence, you can actually see they've poured the foundation for how the expansion for the barn. So they've got the water and everything, the utilities already in place and the foundation for the barn. But they've removed all the red that was the barn to preserve it for putting it back on whenever the expansion is done. But they're also building the bathrooms right now, which is the other major part of the playground. And then they'll have the shelters and then the playground to install. And then like I said, we'll be able to dedicate that one before the barn's ready. And then we'll move to the barn and then dedicate it. So for 24, we had some pathway pedestrian safety improvements. Some other ones are in a different location, like Bridge Street. Bridge Street was completed, but was considered more of kind of fell under the sewer program versus roads, but some of these hit multiple topics.
I noticed today there were signs up for, the pedestrian crossings in a few locations. The big lime yellow or lime green, whatever, lime green, I should say. Are we getting ready to put a few more up?
I'll have to get you an answer to that. I'm not sure what's the next ones are.
It seems like that's a simple
Off the top of my head.
thing to do. So anyway, you can check on that.
It's public services. It's regular maintenance.
Okay.
And replacement is people wipe them out, then they go back out and replace
So
them.
probably just
But I don't mean
upgrading
the
them.
one in the road. I mean the ones that show in the big sign with the pedestrian pointing at the road. You know what I'm talking, Pat knows what I'm talking about.
Well, there was some installed for the phase one construction of Bridge Street, is that what you're talking about, Bridge Street?
Well, this is right out on May River Road.
Oh, okay.
I saw some today.
We'll have to look at it.
That could be a DOT thing, perhaps. That, to my knowledge, that was not, that
I
was.
want to check it out and look at it.
Yeah, we'll check on that. And
I'll reach out to public services, see if they did it. Because
Right.
we didn't.
That's, yeah, that's what I'm trying to work. Yes, I agree.
So, completion in '24, like I said, this is where the Bridge Street streetscape actually showed up. It wasn't in streets, it's in stormwater and sewer, because one of the main purpose of that was to put in, brand new, stormwater drains that did not exist. You can also see phase 2C and sewer extension, phase 2 and 3. And yes, it will be done this fiscal year. All the connections have been made. We're simply now, dealing with the homeowners on fixing their grass and everything. So,
Your comments?
okay.
I'm not gonna make one right now either.
Then comprehensive drainage improvements, again, that's something that goes ongoing. Hayward Cove Drainage Basin is the study we did was for that one. For fiscal year '25, we're looking at Historic District completing 4, 5, and 6. That one's finalizing design, getting ready to go out to bid right now. And then Pritchard Street drainage improvement, we talked about boundary. Pritchard Street will be, when we went out there and did the sewer, one thing we did not put in is we did not put any stormwater drainage on it. So we're working on that, getting that in place as part of next phase. So last couple of slides, this is very busy, but what this does, and this is in your budget book, this shows you where the funding is coming from for each capital project. As you look from the left to right, you'll see the different funding sources, whether it's H-Tax, local accommodations tax, GeoBond, TIF. This just kind of tells you, when we kind of broke it down in the front of each fund, this is kind of that summary of all projects. So if you ever are curious on what's funding the Boundary Street streetscape, you can come in here and see that 130,000 is coming from H-Tax, 1.7 million, 7.5 million is coming from TIF. So this gives you the breakdown. And again, this is in your budget book that was presented to council. It's one of the big sheets that fold out. One of the other ones that's in there that's very busy as well is kind of a 5-year outlook for the CIP program. So you can see for fiscal year '25, the projects that are, and the funding associated with it, as well as '26, and then '27, '28. And as we really get about a couple years out, that's when we will start looking at prioritizing the next line of projects, and looking at council input on what needs to be, as we complete things, what needs to be coming online. Again, you have a fold-out bigger version in your budget book whenever should you want to look at that. or-
I know that y'all have worked hard because you're trying to accomplish, you're getting more projects done, which means the volume of carryover money that used to take place before you got here was a staggering sum of money. What do we have? Do you have any idea what the carryover is on the projects now?
The CIP fund balance is $13.5 million.
You've gotten it way down compared to where it was before you got here.
Now, something doesn't get completed June 30th and it's going to complete July 15th, we may still have some carryover for that because it runs fiscal year, but that's what we're anticipating based on where we are hoping to have complete by the end of the year. So after that, to wrap up, again, proposed consolidated budget. We talked about general fund, special revenue funds, the stormwater and debt service at our first workshop, CIP this workshop. All that together makes up our total budget of a little over $990,620,000. Again, which is a slight decrease. Again, most of that is because of the capital CIP carry forward, as well as the special revenue funds. But the general fund is up a little over 2%, and then stormwater is up a little bit, and then debt service is up a little bit. But overall, it's about a 2% decrease over our budget from last year. Again, the process, we are at the second workshop. Council will have our public hearing and second and final reading at our council meeting on June the 11th. We've already advertised that. We'll have that as the first item for the agenda after the public hearing and all of that. And then we'll do the public hearing on the budget and second and final reading. Any questions?
You have any more money that I can find useful?
I've got ideas already.
You know as well as I do, if y'all come and y'all say y'all want it done, we'll figure out how to make it happen. So if you don't,
It's funny, when I asked him, he says, well, you gotta talk to the rest of the council.
Because you ask all the time.
so if no additional questions, I would be remiss if I did not thank senior staff, the ones who aren't here, the ones that are here, as well as Natalie and her team in finance, Chris, Heather, and their help in getting this done. They make the process so much it's more smooth than any process I've ever had. They're a great team. Thank you all for your input throughout the budget process. Should you have any questions between now and second reading, please feel free to reach out. Based on the comments that we've received up to this point, we do not see any changes that will be made between or the fiscal one to getting their grant that we received the $144,000 grant from first reading till second reading. So right now, what would be presented to you is what was presented at the first workshop. Without that, thank y'all very much.
Any more questions from council? We have a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
We are,